will arrive in Germany later today to begin their first state visit of the King's reign.
Yeah, the royal couple was scheduled to start their trip in France on Sunday, but of course it's cancelled after violent protests broke out across the country.
Well, let's go to Michael Cole, Royal Observer, who joins us to tell us what is in store on that three-day trip. Michael, good morning to you.
Good morning, Isabel. Good morning, Eamon. Yes, this is very, very big stuff. The first state visit by the King and the Queen Consort, Prince Charles, of course. He went there very many times, I think 17 times. I certainly went with him the last couple of times he went in company with Princess Diana. Today, he's going to be greeted by the German federal president, Frank Steinmeier, and his wife, Elke. And later in the day, he's going to be addressing the Bundestag, that's the federal parliament. This is very big stuff. It should be remembered that Her Majesty the Queen never went to Germany until she'd been on the throne for 13 years. She went in 1965. And that was very, very significant because it was the first reconciliation after the Second World War. And it was so significant. I remember there was a big white tie ball, and the BBC did something very rare in those days, a live outside broadcast straight from Germany. But this is also significant in many other ways because the King is going to be meeting refugees from Ukraine and finding out how the Germans are handling this problem. And there will be another reconciliation at the St. Nikolai Church, which is that ruined church in the middle of Berlin, the Kurfürstendamm, to cement the relationship that has been a very good one since the Second World War. And then the royal couple go on to Hamburg, meeting more people down there. It's a very important thing. Here we see the King, I think, not with German servicemen, with British servicemen, doing what he does very well. And I do think, although I've never been his hugest fan, that he's played a blinder since he's been king. He hasn't put a foot wrong, and he's been doing very, very well indeed. It must be said that on previous visits when I've been there, I remember one occasion, 1987, there was a parade of British soldiers and there was a big garrison in West Berlin at that time. And then the princess went to the opera where the Royal Ballet was performing. And I remember I was cutting the film. In Germany, most of the picture editors were women and they always wore white gloves. And I had this picture editor and she was looking at pictures of Diana. And this is 1987, remember? And she said, she is so beautiful, but she is so sad. She is so sad. And she could see then, and she was absolutely right, that the marriage was coming apart. Yeah. But these are happier times and we move on.
Yeah, look, it's interesting reflecting on the history and you talking about that significant first visit of the Queen. And, you know, the war was problematic for the royal family, let's make no bones about it, because, of course, they were related to a lot of Germans. And that remains the case today. And, in fact, the King will be meeting with some of his cousins during this state visit.
Absolutely. I mean, the royal family is rooted in aristocracy of Germany. Until 1917, in the height of the First World War, the family name was Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. And King George V, very sensibly, on the advice of his private secretary, changed it to Windsor, which was a lot more palatable, particularly when there were bombers called Goethas dropping bombs on London. So I think that German ancestry cannot be denied and will be embraced. I think that the King has got to speak to the federal government in German, and we'll hear how good his German is. I always think at Cambridge, if he'd studied languages instead of archaeology and anthropology, it might have been a lot better. But he says that studying anthropology helped him to understand all the tribal dances he then had to witness when he went around the Commonwealth. So maybe he's right and I'm wrong.
Well, thank you very much for shedding some light on what's ahead for the royal couple today.